Think about the last time you were certain you were right in an argument. Were you actually right? Or did your brain just need you to feel right? Your brain takes shortcuts. It quietly bends reality to fit your story. And you never see it happening. Let me show you what that looks like. It sounds like this.
Hey, we're taking Teddy out Friday for his birthday. Steakhouse downtown. You in?
I'm gonna sit this one out. I've been sticking with the vegetarian thing.
Oh, you're still doing that? I mean, it's just one dinner.
It's not about one dinner. The leading cause of death is cardiovascular disease. That's the risk driving my decision. Everything else is secondary.
Secondary? Losing muscle and metabolic function isn't secondary. Once that starts slipping, everything gets harder.
Not harder than a heart attack.
You're optimizing your entire life around one variable.
When one variable dwarfs the others, yeah, you don't ignore it.
We're seeing confirmation bias at work. Jane and Dan aren't disagreeing about facts. They're arguing over which fact matters most. Jane treats cardiovascular mortality as the dominant risk, the one that drives her decision. Dan treats muscle and metabolic decline as equally critical. Both are being rational. Both are using real data, but each elevated their preferred variable to most important status without questioning it. This is biased interpretation. They're assigning different weights to the risks based on what they already believe matters. It's one of the most common ways confirmation bias shows up. The dark side of your mental shortcuts at work, favoring what already fits your beliefs. Let's get back to Jane and Dan and hear what happens next.
I was just reading about this huge study on red meat and heart disease. Decades worth of data.
Those studies just track what people already eat, right? The people eating more red meat are probably also drinking more, exercising less. You can't really separate it out.
When you have that much data all pointing the same way,
More data doesn't fix the problem, though. What about the research on protein and keeping muscle as you age? That's pretty solid.
and how are they measuring that?
Different ways, but they all show the same thing.
Okay. What about the large population studies tracking vegetarian diets and cardiac outcomes?
Over what time frame?
A few months usually.
So just short-term markers. That doesn't tell you if people are actually living longer.
Cholesterol is one of the strongest predictors we have.
And losing muscle predicts mortality too.
When you understand the mechanism behind it,
Same with protein and muscle. The mechanism is pretty clear.
so
Jane and Dan aren't ignoring evidence. They're selectively scrutinizing it. When evidence threatens their position, the questions get sharp. Methodology, confounders, time frame, design flaws. When evidence supports their position, the bar drops. This is asymmetric scrutiny, and it doesn't feel like bias when you're doing it. It feels like being thorough, rigorous, intellectually honest. But the rigor only cuts one way. This is how confirmation bias operates most of the time, not by making up facts, but by demanding higher standards of proof only when it's inconvenient. Let's keep listening.
Let me ask you something. What would actually change your mind about this?
about going vegetarian?
Yeah, what kind of evidence would make you rethink it?
I mean, if there were solid long-term data showing vegetarians have higher mortality rates,
And you'd trust it?
if it was well designed, replicated, controlled for lifestyle factors, yeah.
So it would have to clear every possible hurdle.
Well, yeah. Otherwise, what's the point? What about you? What would make you cut back on meat?
Good question. Probably long-term randomized trials showing a direct mortality risk from red meat.
And you'd trust that?
If the design was airtight, no confounders, large sample, replicated results,
So, a study that doesn't exist.
maybe one day. I guess we'll just have to agree to disagree.
Yeah, guess so.
We'll miss you Friday.
Jane and Dan both described the kind of evidence that would change their minds. Long-term, randomized, replicated, methodologically airtight. The perfect study. The problem isn't that they want strong evidence. It's that they've set a bar so high it's essentially unreachable. And here's the thing. They don't realize they're doing it. This is another way confirmation bias operates, by setting towering standards for evidence that threatens your beliefs. From the inside, it feels principled, rigorous, like you're just being careful. From the outside, it's a brick wall with no doors or windows. When no realistic evidence could ever be good enough to change your mind, your belief calcifies. And that's exactly how your brain protects your inner narrative. Cognitive self-defense in action. The same shortcuts that help you move through the world efficiently, automating decisions, preserving energy, stabilizing your identity, also make you vulnerable to confirmation bias. You can't eliminate it. To remove confirmation bias completely, you'd need perfect neutrality, infinite time, unlimited cognitive resources, and zero emotional investment in your beliefs. In other words, you'd have to stop being human. That's not happening. The best you can do is manage it. The first step? Awareness. That's a conversation for another day. If you value clear thinking, hit subscribe. We're just getting started. This channel is about better living through sharper thinking. We just scratched the surface of confirmation bias. What do you do to keep it in check? Drop a comment. Burger's optional.